Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So today, inshallah, we will continue with the romantic poets. We talked about in the previous part, we talked about William Blake, and we looked at the songs of innocence and songs of experience. Today, inshallah, we will look at other romantic poets. Okay, we will look also at William Wordsworth. And today we will look at the romantic poets Samuel Taylor Coleridge and Percy Bysshe Shelley, okay, and John Keats. So three of them, we will look at one example from each one of them. Coleridge and Keats, their poems are very long, but Shelley, it's amazing, very short one. So you will enjoy it more, I guess. Okay, fine. So let's come to Samuel Taylor Coleridge and let's look at a background of his life. So Samuel Taylor Coleridge was an English poet, literary critic, philosopher, and theologian, who, with his friend William Wordsworth, was a founder of the Romantic movement in England and a member of the Lake poets. His biggest contribution to the Romantic movement was in a return to the magical and mysterious. Wordsworth wanted poetry to extract beauty from everyday occurrences. Do you remember when we said that Wordsworth was a pantheist, and it means that he saw God in everything, while Coleridge wanted to soar into the imagination and fantastic, because Coleridge became an atheist actually. Okay, so he suffered from neuralgia at the end and depression and became dependent on opium. This opium actually inspired him to write the poem, a well-known one called Kubla Khan. Okay, he wrote also some of his main works was the Rime of the Ancient Mariner that we will talk about look at today, inshallah. That was in 1798. Okay, and then he wrote Christabel, an unfinished narrative poem, and of course the dreamlike poem Kubla Khan, composed under the influence of opium. Okay, now let's come to one of his poems, which is called The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, which was written in 1798. This actually poem talks about an ancient mariner who detains one of the three wedding guests he meets and tells him his story. Driven to the South Pole by a storm, this is the story, his ship becomes surrounded by ice. Through the snow and fog comes an albatross. Albatross اللي هو النورس, that is received with joy. You should know that the albatross there, it has two colors, black and white. And some people thought that this is a symbol of the inner self of the individual. Inside us there are good and bad sides, okay? Received with joy, the mariner, however, kills it for no reason, and for this a curse falls onto the ship. So after killing the albatross, there was a curse. The ship is then driven north to the equator and becalmed. The crew, who had at first condoned the shooting, they were happy with the shooting of the albatross, now turn on the mariner viciously. However, all because they thought that the curse was spilled on the ship because of killing the albatross. So at the beginning they were happy, but then when they suffered, they were angry at the mariner. However, all except the mariner die. So all of them would die because of the curse. And the curse is finally, so he was left alone on the ship, and he was looking at the dead bodies on the ship, looking at their eyes were open, looking at him. He thought that they were staring at him and accusing him of causing their death. He was looking also at the sea, and he hated the natural, the monsters. He talked about the creatures in the sea as monsters, and he hated the views in front of him. So the curse continued to exist until one night he saw the snakes, the sea snakes swimming, and he thought of their marvelous view under the moon, and he blessed them. Once he blessed them and he saw the beauty in the nature, the spell was broken, the curse was broken, and he managed to go back to his country. Now, going back to his country, he had to pay a penance. This penance, اللي هي الكفارة, was that he will forever, okay, read or tell his story to other people in order to teach them. He teaches love for all God's creatures, to teach them to love, all the God's creatures. I hope you understood the story. Okay. So the poem is of great philosophical and psychological depth. Part of its charm lies in its suggestive imagery, its strangeness of setting, because you see it's in the sea, inside the sea. You are in a wedding, and then you go with the narrator to the sea, and from the sea is in a place surrounded with ice. You go to the equator, and then you come back to England. So that was a strange, actually, type of setting, not one place, but vast setting. Its lilting rhythm and its smooth flow of words. The selection below is from part 4. We will look at part 4, in which the mariner bless God's creatures whose beauty has touched his heart and inspired him with love for all of them. Although he will still continue to do penance, his penance will now have meaning, for it will lead him to salvation as opposed to his earlier suffering of a lost soul. So before the curse, he suffered from a lost soul. Now, after the curse and after getting back to his country, his penance wasn't only a penance to get forgiveness for his crime, but actually it helped him to get salvation, الخلاص من الآلام المعصية. Okay. So what are the themes in the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner before we go to the poem? Coleridge engages with the themes of sins, forgiveness, and nature. Sins, forgiveness, and nature. The nature imagery throughout the poem, the poet uses nature as the controlling force. When we talk about the eyes, the sea, the sun, the monsters, okay? All the natural elements, the nature itself is the controlling force that is trapping him far away from his country, causing the death of his crew, okay? So that's why we call it a controlling force. And those of his fellow men. At various points, it appears that nature is on their side, except, of course, after the mariner makes the mistake of killing the albatross. It's then that their little bit of luck runs out and they face many hardship, many stanzas, many cases of hardship, so many difficulties. The mariner spends the rest of the poem paying for the one great sin of killing the bird. Eventually, alone on the ship, he faces solitude as his penance. إذن الوحدة اللي هو كان فيها أثناء وجوده على القارب كانت جزء من كفارة الذنب اللي ارتكبه. إذن هو ماتوا كل الطاقم اللي كانوا معه، كل الرجال اللي كانوا معه في السفينة ماتوا، وضل هو أكثر من أسبوع في السفينة يتطلعوا مش هم يتطلعوا فيه، يتطلع عليهم، عينيهم مفتوحين ويعني ينظرون له ويلومونه، وكأن عيونهم تلومه على الجريمة التي ارتكبها. فوجوده ووحدته وتفكيره في عمله في فعله باللي صار كانت جزء من الكفارة عن الذنب. Now, structure and form of the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. The rhyme of the Ancient Mariner is a lyrical ballad. It's a lyrical ballad. This is an old type, actually, an old form. If you remember, we said that the Romantic poets returned to the older, actually, forms of writing poems. So it is written as if it is a folk ballad, which folk, of course, the L is silent, so we say folk. Okay, be careful with this one, which is usually written by an anonymous person. The ballad is a narrative song poem, usually relating a single dramatic incident or story in a form suitable for singing or rhythmical chanting. So that's why the words of the rhyme of the Ancient Mariner are flowing smoothly, because he prepared it to be recited as a story, and but in a form of a song. Folk ballads in general often have sudden dramatic beginnings, are written in the form of a dialogue. So suddenly you are in the middle of the action, okay? And they are written in the form of a dialogue, usually between the narrator and the listener, as well as between characters. The language is simple, but there is plenty of repetition and use of archaic words. There is a sudden change of action besides music and rhythm. The poem, The Ancient Mariner, contains all these characteristics, hence it is a ballad, although not a folk ballad. Okay? Now look at the first stanza in the fourth part. If you want to read more, you can find online the previous parts. So this is the fourth part because they are 7 parts. Okay? So I fear thee, ancient mariner. This is the guest. This is the guest sitting and talking to the ancient mariner, and he tells the ancient mariner that he is scared of him. I fear thy skinny hand. His hands were skinny. يعني مجلدات هيك يعني نحفين لدرجة إنه العظم مبين. And thou art long and lank and brown, as is the ribbed sea sand. So in this part of the poem, the wedding guest again enters the scene, because he was in the scene in the previous parts, and says at this point of the story that the ancient mariner looks like a man possessed by a ghost. يعني وكأنه الأنشنت مارينر مسكون فيه شبح. So addressing him, the frightened wedding guest tells him that his appearance strikes great fear into him. You are causing me much fear. He adds that he is afraid of his skinny, okay, hand, and also his tall, lean body, وجسمه الطويل المحني, okay, whose skin is wrinkled, يعني مجعد, and brown وبني, like the rebel-marked sea sand. Okay. طيب. I fear thee and thy glittering eyes. أخاف منك ومن عيونك اللامعة. And thy skinny hand so brown. Fear not thou wedding guest. فالآن الانشانت مارينر برد عليه بحكي له لا تخف. Okay. This body dropped not down. يعني هذا الجسد وكأنه بيحكي له أنا لسه أنا مش شبح، هذا جسم حقيقي، أنا ما متش. This body dropped not down. It means that this body didn't die. I am a real person. Okay? So the wedding guest says that I am afraid of you, your sparkling, I'm afraid of you and of your sparkling eyes and your skinny hand with so brown complexion. يعني الجلد فيه بقع البني هيك. Thereupon the ancient mariner tells him not to be afraid of him. He adds that he did not die with other mariners at that time, implying that he is a living man, not a ghost. So this line, this body dropped not down, is to indicate that he is alive, not a dead person, not a ghost. Alone, all alone. Do you remember when we said the characteristics? Repetition, a lot of repetition. Yes, alone, alone, all alone. Alone on a wide sea. إذا بيحكي له قصته. كنت وحيد تماما في البحر الواسع. And never a saint took pity on my soul in agony. وما فيش ولا قديس أخذت الرأفة والرحمة بالعذاب اللي كانت فيه روحي. Okay, you can read here if you want. His soul suffered great agony, yet not sent. So the same thing I told you. He was left alone and nobody helped him. The many men so beautiful, and they all did lie. كل الرجال كانوا رائعين ولكنهم جميعا سقطوا صرعى ماتوا. And a thousand slimy things lived on, and so did I. بينما creatures in the sea lived on, and the ancient mariner also continued to live on the board of the ship. I looked upon the rotting sea. طلعوا كيف بيوصف السي انه rotting معفن. اوكي عشان هيك كانت الطبيعة غضبانة منه ورفضت انه هي تحل اللعنة عنه او تفك اللعنة عنه الا لما رجع وشعر بحب الطبيعة. And drew my eyes away. يعني كل مرة بطلع على منظر البحر المعفن أو الفاسد بأبعد عيناي عنه. I looked upon the rotting deck. طب ببعد عيناي عن البحر تيجي عيناي على السفينة. And there the dead men lay. بطلع على السفينة بلاقي إيش جثث الرجال الموتى. I looked to heaven and tried to pray. طبعا لأنه كان وضعه ميؤوس منه كان يتطلع إلى السماء ويحاول أن يصلي. But or ever a prayer had gushed. وكل ما أجت تتدفق منه كلمات الدعاء a wicked whisper came. يعني همسة شريرة كانت تمر في ذهنه. And made my heart as dry as dust. وكانت تحول قلبه يكون جاف كالتراب. فهو كان بده يصلي بده يدعي إنه يلاقي طريقه ويعود لبلده ولكن كان قلبه ميت. Okay, that's it. I closed my lids الجفون and kept them closed and the balls like pulses beat. تخيلوا يعني أغلق جفون عينه وخلاهم مسكرين وكان يشعر بالعيون البولز العينين الداخلية وكأنه هي نبض يقفز من مكانه. For the sky and the sea and the sea and the sky. شوفوا الريبيتيشن هنا. Lay dead like a load on my weary eye. إذا كانت السماء والسكاي والسي السماء والبحر وكأنهم أثقال أطنان من الرصاص على عينيه يعني وكأنهم أحمال ما كانش قادر لا يشوف السماء ولا يشوف البحر كل ما تطلع فيهم يحس إنه عينيه بدهم يطلعوا من راسه. And the dead were at my feet. والأسوأ إنه إذا بدي أفتح عيني بدي أشوف الرجال الموتى بجانبي. The cold sweat melted from their limbs. Nor rot nor reek did they. So he's describing the dead people. The look with which they looked on me, نظرتهم إلي, had never passed away. Okay, so he adds that without application of bodily heat, their dead bodies were in a sweat. But they did not either rot or smell unpleasantly. Yet their open eyes still had the reproachful looks with which they died. يعني كانوا ميتين ولكن أجسادهم ظلت بدون ما تتعفن أمامه عشان تظل نتائج جريمته the consequences of his crime present in front of his eyes. And their eyes were looking at him, accusing him of what he did. An orphan's curse would drag to hell, a spirit from on high. But oh, more horrible than that is the curse in a dead man's eye. فبيحكي إنه the mariner in these lines says that an orphan's curse يعني لعنة ولد يتيم is so horrible ممكن تكون سيئة جدا وقوية جدا وممكن يعني he invokes evil upon an angel أوكي وممكن تدمر الإنسان تماما لكن more horrible اللي أسوأ منها is the curse in a dead man's eyes اللعنة اللي بتشوفها في عيون رجل ميت فهو أنا بتكلم عن الأموات كان ينظر في عيونهم أو ينظر هم إله وفي داخل عيونهم بحملوه الذنب so he felt guilty because he caused their death 7 days 7 nights لاحظوا س this is called alliteration okay 7 days 7 nights I saw that curse شوف الموسيقى في البيت الجناس alliteration 7 days 7 nights I saw that curse as if the curse is something present and he can see and here he refers to the dead bodies and yet I could not die رغم انه انا 7 ايام و7 ليالي وانا اتعذب وانا بتطلع للموتى اوكي الا انه انا لم امت and yet I couldn't die لم استطع الموت يعني he wanted to die but he couldn't the moving moon went up the sky and nowhere did abide softly she was going up okay and a star or two beside okay look at the moon here he referred to it as she so this is a kind of personification when you give a human name or you refer to something innate as a human طبعا she is for human beings he used she with the moon وأنا زيكم كمان قبل ما تسألوا هو he referred to the sun with a he and to the moon with a she ليه مش عارفة والله مع أنه إحنا عندنا القمر he والشمس she بس هو he referred to the moon as a she okay so the moving moon went up the sky and nowhere did abide softly اطلع على الكلمات يعني went up the sky softly she was going up so as if there is something peaceful happening here so he feels something peaceful while during the daytime it was like the hell for him the sea the sky the sun in the sky everything was actually not pleasant but at night it's softly okay she was going up so she means personification and a star or two beside so this is a beautiful actually image that he is drawing for us so this is a kind of imagery also every evening the journeying moon climbed up the sky gradually but it didn't stay anywhere softly she went up and up followed by a star or two and went on moving but alas he the mariner was standing on or laying fixedly on board إذا بينما القمر هو كان بيراقب القمر وهو بيصعد للسماء وجنبه نجمة أو نجمتين وبعود يغيب والمارينر البحار تبعنا متمدد بدون حراك على ظهر السفينة Her beams bemocked the sultry main. Her beams يعني the moon's rays. Her beams bemocked the sultry main. Like April hoar, frost spread. But where the ship's huge shadow lay, the charmed water burnt away. A still and awful red. So describing the beauty of moon, the poet through Ancient Mariner says that here, which is the moon, cool beams mocked at the hot sea by spreading over it like the white frost of April. But where the huge so إذن ضوء القمر وأشعته الفضية كانت بتبرد الحرارة اللي كانت تشعها الشمس خلال النهار. But where the huge shadow of their mariner's ship lay, the charmed water always burnt with the flames of a constant and awful red. Okay? إذن في خلال النهار كانت المياه يشعر إنه هي مشتعلة بنيران حمراء. طبعا هذا بسبب شعوره بالذنب. Beyond the shadow of the ship I watched the water snakes. إذا بعد الظل تبع السفينة وهو بتطلع وبحدق في المياه شاهد اللي هي ثعابين الماء. They moved in tracks of shining white. طبعا كانوا في ضوء القمر. أوكي، كانوا بيمشوا في طرق of shining white، وكأنه الطريق تبعتهم track. أوكي. And when they reared the elfish light اللي كانت تضوي fell off in hoary flakes. He looked beyond the shadow of the ship and noticed the water snakes. They moved along the slimy tracks which shone white in the moonlight. إذا بسبب moonlight كانت المكان اللي بيسبحوا فيه وهم بيسبحوا حركة الماء بتعكس ضوء القمر، فأصبحت وكأنها طرق ضوئية. When they raised their heads, moonlit drops of slimy water falling off their heads looked like white flashes. لما كانوا يرفعوا رؤوسهم فوق الماء يصير يتساقط من عليهم فيبين مع ضوء القمر وكأنه فلاشات بتضوي. Within the shadow of the ship. Okay. Within the shadow of the ship, I watched their rich attire. Blue, glossy green, and velvet black. They coiled and swam, and every track was a flash of golden fire. لازال يعني he's now actually this is an imagery. He is drawing a picture for us of that wonderful image of the snakes. When the snakes came within the shadow of our ship, he watched his skins rich in colors. When they, the mariners, coiled and swam, he watched that their skins were marked with blue, shining green, and black like velvet. Since the water in the ship's shadow burnt in flames, the track every one of them left behind looked like a flash of golden fire. إذن هو لما قرب منهم the mariner here when the mariners coiled and swam لما كانوا يشوفوهم، طبعا هم ما كانوا يحبوا شكلهم لأنهم كانوا snakes، ولكن لما هو اطلع عليهم المرة هذه راح شاف إنه الألوان تبعتهم جميلة white with blue shining green and black with velvet، يعني ألوانهم كانت رائعة وكأنه في وراهم golden fire. Oh happy living things, no tongue. Oh happy living things. Now he started to appreciate the beauty of the nature. He looked at the snakes, and under the light of the moon at night, while they are swimming, the lights were reflected on them, on their beautiful colors. So he started to appreciate, to love nature and its creatures. So he would say here, oh happy living things, no tongue. Their beauty might declare. إذن أيتها المخلوقات الرائعة السعيدة الجميلة، لا يوجد كلام يفي جمالكم حقه في الوصف، يعني ما فيش حدا بيقدر يوصف جمالكم. A spring of love، لاحظوا a spring of love ينبوع من الحب gushed from my heart. So here there is a metaphor في عندي استعارة مكنية هنا a spring of love. So he compared the love when it is a lot, when you have a lot of love to something, as if it is a spring that gushed from my heart. Okay, a spring coming out, the water is coming out strongly, gushed يعني moves strongly from and a lot from the earth, and I blessed them unaware، وبدون وعي مني يعني شعرت بالإعجاب الشديد لهم وتمنيت إنه الله يحميهم. Sure my kind saint took pity on me. وفي هذه اللحظة القديس اللطيف المشرف علي أخذته الرحمة فيا and I blessed them unaware. يعني في هذه اللحظة لما أنا I blessed them unaware القديس تم الإعفاء عني وانكسرت اللعنة and I blessed them unaware وبدون وعي مني. طبعا هنا حكينا أنه في repetition بيكون عنده. So the mariner says he exclaimed that they were happy living creatures whose beauty could not be described by anyone. A spring of love burst out in his heart and also wished them happiness, unaware, unawares, surely by the grace of his kind guardian angel. Even if they were unaware, he wanted his guardian angel اللي هو saint القديس الملاك الحارس بتاعه إنه to protect them and to keep them happy a lot. Happy, that's all. Happy, just keep him happy. Okay. Now I will stop here and I will continue in the next video because 30 minutes is enough for this video. Thank you and wait for the rest of the story of the ancient mariner. Okay, we will come to the last stanza and then move to the analysis and some literary devices. We will focus more on them. Okay, thank you very much. See you in the next video.